Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh again. And how are you everyone today? Good, alhamdulillah. In the previous class we have discussed about Surah Al-Ikhlas, and the word Ikhlas is very well known to everyone. It means the sincerity. And we said that Surah Al-Ikhlas, reciting it, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said it's equal to half of the Quran, 1/3 of the Quran. 1/3 of the Quran. The reason why, Maryam, why it's equal to 1/3 of the Quran? Yes. Because it talks about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It discusses Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and it defines Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What does it mean that? This is all from previous class, but we will have to revise and back to what we have discussed. What does it mean that? Why? Because it talks about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then it becomes 1/3 of the Quran. The reason? First, because it talks about the greatest. Every day, 5 times a day, we hear the Mu'adhin say, Allahu Akbar. Allah is the greatest. Is there anything greater than the topic of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So Allah is the greatest. So when something discussed the greatest become great. That's why it becomes 1/3 of the Quran. The second thing that I did not mention, I think in the previous class, but I will mention here if I didn't mention it, is that knowing Allah, it's the core of your religion and the core of your deen. Means to know Allah, to know Him, to know His names and His attributes, to be close to Him like as if you see Him, you feel that Allah is around you, He is helping you, He is providing you, He is the merciful, forgiving, all the meanings about the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you understand them very well and you understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is the core of your religion. Everything else is so important, but if the background, the base, which is knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is not clear to you, everything else will not be perfect. Your salah will not have khushu'. Your siyam will not have sincerity. Your hajj will not be done in a best way. You will do rituals without understanding why you are doing so. So the 5 pillars of Islam, the ibadat, we call them ibadat, the worship, they will make so much sense to you if you know Allah. And don't think knowing Allah is easy. If I ask you, who's Allah? You say, Allah is my Lord. But it's not that easy. Knowing Allah is a journey. You should take it step by step by seeking knowledge, which is the best is now what you are doing now, seeking the knowledge of understanding of the Quran. It's one way to understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, today we will take Surah Al-Masad, understanding of the fiqh of Surah Al-Masad. This is what we started. Then after that we go to the tafsir using the book Tafsir Al-Sa'd. Okay? Tafsir Al-Sa'd. Why we call it Tafsir Al-Sa'd? Tafsir is Tafsir Quran. Sa'di is the name of the scholar who wrote this tafsir and this explanation. Okay, the first fiqh of the understanding of this surah, can you read number 1, Ayman Sharif? On the points here.
The surah has connection to the seerah.
Okay, Surah Al-Masad, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم تبت يدا أبي لهب وتب ما أغنى عنه ماله وما كسب سيصلى نارا ذات لهب وامرأته حمالة الحطب في جيدها حبل من مسد. The entire surah is actually a seerah event. It's an event happened in the seerah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. But there is a very general rule you have to write it down, is that the more you understand the seerah, the more you understand about the Quran. The more you understand the seerah, the more you understand about the Quran. That's why understanding of the seerah of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, usually people take it very lightly. Because why? Because it's like a story. And always the stories to us, we tell the stories. Every day you have a lot of stories, right? Your life is a story. Because we are full of stories, we sometimes do not take the story, which is the seerah of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, as one of the main ways and reasons to reach and to understand the Quran. Now, without going to the seerah, how would you be able to understand Surah Al-Masad? The way we will understand it today. You have to go back to the seerah, to the event of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam with his uncle Abu Lahab, and then understand what happened to be able to understand the Quran. And Surah Al-Tawbah, for example, take a very long surah. Surah Al-Tawbah is an event in the seerah. Al-Anfal, Al-A'raf, Surah Al-Kahf, the Quran is full of seerah lessons that when you understand the seerah, you will be able to go to the Quran and read it. Oh, this is what happened with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. It's also mentioned in the Quran. Allah said so and so. Then you will be able to have the fiqh and the understanding of the surah. Number 2.
Intention and sincerity versus acceptance of the people.
Okay. Now, when Rasul, what does mean this? I try to make the points not so clear. Like if you give these notes to someone who does not attend the class, he would not be able to understand what we are talking about unless he referred to your notes. That's why note taking are so important. Intention and sincerity versus the acceptance of the people. When Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the first time he received the message in the mountain of An-Nur, he ran back to Khadija radiyallahu anha. Khadija took him to who? Waraqah ibn Nawfal. What Waraqah ibn Nawfal said to him? You will be chased out by your people. He went back Rasulullah ﷺ and waited for the next ayat to be revealed to him. He waited until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to him Surah Al-Muddathir. Ya ayyuha al-muddathir qum fa'anzir wa rabbaka fakabbir wa thiyabaka fatahhir. After that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to go in public and to announce to the people. Where is the location that he chose to announce to the people? Mountain of Safa. He climbed the mountain of Safa, he stood there and he was facing the Qibla, the Kaaba, and he called the people to oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when this event happened, what is the intention of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? And his sincerity. His ikhlas at the peak, right? No one can question the ikhlas and the sincerity of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He is a messenger of Allah who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent him an angel from the heaven and give him the message and choose him among the worlds, al-alameen, to convey the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So everyone is sure about the intention of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, people did not welcome him. Versus the acceptance. Did they accept the message of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? No. The first man who stood against him is his uncle. He said, "Tabban laka sa'ira hadha al-yawm. Tabban laka sa'ira hadha al-yawm. You may perish in this day." This is what Abu Lahab said to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Can you imagine a messenger who spoke to Jibreel alayhi salam, who saw the Jibreel in his real form, who was ready to convey the message and excited about it, and he is sure, he is confident, he stood and he called people, but immediately he got the rejection, and not only rejection, from the closest people to him. Who's the closest people to him? It's his uncle, Abu Lahab. And that's why the ayah, the surah was revealed. Right after this event, immediately, the surah was revealed. So, Why are we learning actually these ayat? Why are we learning the Quran? So we can bring the Quran into our life today and try to implement what we can implement, right? This is the purpose of the Quran, is guidance. Hudan linnas. So now if you bring this moment of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam into your life, now today, if you stand and you call people for a good action, maybe your friends, maybe your relatives, maybe your family members, you call them, for example, for Salat al-Jama'ah, no one answer your call and no one care. You prayed alone. And then you feel bad, you say, why, Ya Allah, they didn't respond to my call. You have to understand that your sincerity and ikhlas has nothing to do with what people will respond to you. Maybe people will not like what you say. Many scholars in the Ummah, they live and die, they are the greatest. And no one know about them. No one know about their knowledge. So it doesn't mean that people accept you and like you and gather around you. Means you are ikhlas, means your intention is good. No. Each one, Allah deal with it separately. Your intention and your sincerity doesn't mean that people will accept you. And the example is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam with his uncle Abu Lahab. So this is the first lesson we learn from this surah, Surah Al-Masad, that if you are sincere and you have good intention, it doesn't mean that people will accept your call. They may reject you, as Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was rejected. The third lesson we learn here, can you read Farid? Verbal abuse.
Verbal abuse and torture, the best man on earth.
Okay. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the best man walked on earth, the best man that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created, he was tortured. He was verbally abused. So if you look at your life today and you try to be always keeping your dignity and honor and you want everyone to respect you, everyone to say good about you, especially the Ummah today, we always, even when we travel, we expect people to respect us, like even in non-Muslim country, and we want them to give us our dignity. No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala might send you people on your way as a test. Like what happened to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was not able to send an angel to strike all the disbelievers and to kill them all and give victory just in 1 second to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? He was able to do so. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the example of the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to teach us about sunnatullahi fi khalqi. This is the way how Allah created His creation. You will be abused, especially if you have the truth. If you are telling the truth, if you are spreading the truth, if you are a person who is calling people for the haqq and the truth to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there will be abuse to you verbally and maybe even physically, like what happened to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Even though he is the best man on earth, but he tested what he has tested in his life. Number 4, Amin.
One of the reasons for punishment in dunya and akhirah is to hurt Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam verbally or physically.
So now, this is a great highlight. I want you to highlight this point, is that when Abu Lahab walked to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and insulted him verbally, very bad. The Sahaba radiallahu anhum, when they explain this event, they always refer to that hurt Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam so much because of many reasons. First, because he is his uncle, and it was his first call, and he did not expect such rejection in public like that. He insulted him very bad, him and his wife, Abu Lahab. His wife, what's her name? No, wife of Abu Lahab. Ummu Jamil. Okay. They insulted him both, and that hurt Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam so much. And even some of the in the books of Seerah, they mentioned that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, physically, when they torture him physically, it was not as hard on him as when it was verbally. Words are more strong than if I push you now and hurt you physically. It's less if I say to you a bad word, if I insult you. It will hurt you physically more than the physically touch and the torture. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was hurt so much physically, and from the sunnatullah subhanahu wa ta'ala on his creation that whoever hurt Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it's the reason to be in hellfire. That's why if you see Abu Lahab, this surah was not revealed after Abu Lahab returned back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and died. No, this surah revealed immediately after the event, confirming that Abu Lahab in the hellfire. The disbelievers used to go to Abu Lahab saying, please convert to Islam. Fake your religion so you can strike Islam in the middle, you know. You can prove that Quran is wrong. Because Quran have confirmed that you are in hellfire. He refused. He said, no, I will never even fake my Islam. Can you imagine how opportunity he has to destroy Islam? But Allah is there. Allah is the one who is in control of him. Allah confirmed that he is in hellfire, and he was misguided and astray until he went to the hellfire. One of the reasons that Mufassirin mentioned, one of the reasons is that because he hurt Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's why whenever I mention Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam name, you should immediately say sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You have to always show so much respect to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In the other side, like people when they hurt Rasulullah, they go to hell. Imagine if you respect Rasulullah, what you will be rewarded for. You will be rewarded Jannah, inshallah. Even in our current time, the guy who was writing the cartoon, he's from Denmark, about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It was in 2005. Recently, in 2020 or 2021, he had an accident in the car, and the car burned. Not just accident and he died, it was burned until he died inside the car. Allahu A'lam, it's maybe this is the punishment for him to hurt Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Look at France now. France, since the time that they attacked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam until now, this moment, if you go and open the news about France, see their situation, it's always decreasing, always they have problems. Since the day that they defended those who hurt Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they are facing a lot of troubles. One of the most troubled country in Europe is France. The reason why? Because they always attack Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they hurt him with words. So to hurt Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam even after he passed away is same as you hurt him alive. So Mufassirin, scholars of Tafsir say, hurting Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam verbally is one of the reasons of the hell and punishment in dunya and akhirah. Unless the person has make tawbah and revert to Allah and revert to Islam, and he Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will wipe his sins. But if they die on that action, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala confirmed that they will be in hell, because he confirmed for Abu Lahab even before his death that he will enter the hellfire. So this is one of the lessons in Surah Al-Masad. By the way, Surah Al-Masad is considered as mu'jiza as well. It's a miracle, as we mentioned. Why it's miracle? Because Abu Lahab had the opportunity to fake his deen like the munafiqeen, the hypocrites. How many hypocrites were in Medina?
40.
How many hypocrites? 40. 40 hypocrites fake their Islam. Not that they don't have strong iman. No. Hypocrites means inside a kafir, disbeliever, and outside is a Muslim. They smile to Rasulullah, they pray with him, but from inside they are kuffar. They lived with Rasulullah in Medina, and Rasulullah did not expose them. Rasulullah ﷺ did not expose and did not mention their name to anyone except one Sahabi. He is the secret keeper of Rasulullah ﷺ, Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman. What's his name? Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman. He's the secret keeper of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He could adopt that way in Mecca and fake his deen, fake his Islam, but it's a miracle. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed a miracle to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And if you notice, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in many ayat, inshallah it will come to us in many surah, that whenever Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam feels sad, Allah will reveal ayat that comfort his heart. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is a human like us. He has emotions. Sometimes he feels very sad from what's happening. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reveal, this is one of the surah that to comfort the heart of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that Abu Lahab is in the hellfire. You don't have to worry. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam recited the Quran, it reached Abu Lahab, and he became more kafir than before. They say kufr, disbelief. You know, disbelief is stubborn. When you are stubborn, you are so close to disbelief. So that's why always be very flexible, even in worldly matters. Why? Because kufr it's equal to it stubborn. Sometimes you see the truth, but you just don't want to accept it. You just reject it. That's the reason why Abu Lahab as well, he rejected the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Next, Amin.
While reading the surah, reflect on how much Rasulullah, peace be upon him, was heard to convey the message.
When you recite Surah Al-Masad, what you have to have in mind, and reflect, how much was Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam facing from hurt and torturing and verbal abuse while he was calling people to Dawah, while he was calling people to Islam, while he was so kind to them. He's just calling them for the truth. But people are hurting Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam physically and verbally. And this is how you have to have tranquility in the salah. How can you have khushu' in the salah? Just thinking of Allah? No, thinking also of the ayat that you are reciting. Remembering Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in your salah is khushu' as well. Okay, last one. Amin.
Dunya will pass faster than we think, and Akhirah is the promise.
Aywa. Dunya will pass by so fast. Now where is Abu Lahab? In his grave, what he's doing? Playing football there? What he's doing there?
Being tortured.
In torture. It's confirmed in this ayah. تبت يدا أبي لهب وتب ما أغنى عنه ماله سيصلى نارا. He will be in hellfire. Can you imagine from the time of Rasulullah until our time now? He is in the life of, we discussed that time, life of Barzakh. This is the transition between the dunya, we have dunya, then we have Barzakh in the grave, and then we have the akhirah, the hereafter. So this life of Barzakh, he had been now in punishment by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala until our time now. Okay? The idea that we have to think about and we have to reflect about that life passed by so fast. Abu Lahab died and Rasulullah returned back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and generation after generation came to them, but we still recite the Quran about this incident to remind us that your life is shorter than you think. You think you are young now, right? You don't think about death, but it's actually will pass very fast. Suddenly you find yourself 70, 80 years old. Oh, okay, we are assuming that you will live long until some people die in their 40s, some they die in their 50s, 60s. Only Allah knows what's our age. The idea is, from this surah, we can understand that the life is very short. And it will pass by very fast. The only thing that you will save in your bank account is the good deeds. You will not save money, you will not save health, you will not save anything. You cannot bring anything to your grave except your kafan. And even your kafan, the clothes that they will wrap you with it, the ants will eat it, everything will perish. The only thing you will come with you is your deeds. So we have to think about it while you are reciting Surah Al-Masad, that Abu Lahab is gone. What if he believed? Can you imagine if Abu Lahab did not go against Rasulullah ﷺ and believe he would be in Jannah with Abu Bakr as-Siddiq and Umar ibn Khattab and Ali ibn Abi Talib and all the Sahaba? But he refused. So this is a lesson for us to be always with the truth, even if the truth seems to be difficult, even if we are having difficult to apply the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even if it seems not too fun to be always in the discipline with the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have to remember that the life is very short, as it was short for those before us, like Abu Lahab. Okay, now we will move to the ayat. I will recite and then you read the meaning of the ayah, ya Amir. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم تبت يدا أبي لهب وتب.
The power of Abu Lahab will perish, and he will perish.
Okay, you see here this ayah is actually two parts. تبت يدا أبي لهب, perish the power of Abu Lahab. The first part here is dua. It's like you making dua on someone. Ya Allah, make those who hurt the believers perish. Okay? You make dua against them. You are making dua against someone. This is the first part is dua. The second part is what? تبت يدا أبي لهب وتب, and he will perish. This is إخبار. In Arabic we say إخبار. A news. إخبار means a news. إخبار means Allah is confirming and he will perish. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he revealed the ayah, Allah himself is making dua on Abu Lahab. So what happened to Abu Lahab? Just now we mentioned, what happened to Abu Lahab when people came to him and said to him, why you don't fake your deen? Why you don't fake your Islam? He said, no, I will not. Because of the dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said on him for the surah. تَبَّتْ يَدَا أَبِي لَهَبٍ. May Abu Lahab, the power of Abu Lahab, perish. Halas. That have closed any door of guidance for him. And Allah confirmed in the same verse, and he will perish. Confirming, sure, no doubt. This is the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why these words are miracles. The only difference between us and the Sahaba today, the way how we recite them. The Sahaba radiallahu anhu, when they used to recite, their iman, the heart that recite the surah, is different than the heart that recite today. Okay? So the more your iman is elevated up and you are strong and you have your faith is connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the right way, with the right ibadat, with the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the more the Quran is so powerful in your tongue. When you make dua, your dua is accepted. Why? Because of your iman and because of your heart, like the Sahaba radiallahu anhu. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the first verse here, he made dua, the first part, and he confirmed in the news, ikhbar, we say ikhbar, and he will perish. He confirmed that Abu Lahab is in hellfire. Okay. He will perish means in dunya and akhirah. Not only in dunya he will perish, he will die, and in akhirah he will perish, that he will be in hellfire. Okay. ما أغنى عنه ماله وما كسب.
His wealth and gains will not help him.
Okay, here, because they didn't mention here, I think in Tafsir Sa'di, he may mention it, inshallah. But I will mention here whatever I know to you, and then later we read to understand it. ما أغنى عنه ماله. Maluhu in Arabic is his wealth. They say when people came and start to speak to Abu Lahab, they say, why you have done this? Why you spoke to your nephew like that? Why you hurt him this much? He said, hey, don't worry, I have so much wealth, I will not go to hell. I will use my wealth to protect myself if there is hell. the people go to him and start to speak to him and say, be careful, maybe he's telling the truth. He said, don't worry, I have so much wealth that if there is a truth like this, I will use my wealth. So that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed, they say, مَا أَغْنَى عَنْهُ, your wealth will not help you. وَمَا كَسَبْ, they say وَمَا كَسَبْ is referring to his children. Kasab means not your wealth, not your children. But here the translation, they don't translate it as a children. In some scholars of tafsir, they say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala referring here kasab means the children. So not your wealth, not your children will be in as a gain for you to be away from the hellfire. Okay, can you read the Ibn Mas'ud narrated?
Ibn Mas'ud narrated that when Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam called people towards Islam, Abu Lahab said, even if what Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says is true, I will ransom myself from all problems on the day of judgment with my wealth and my children. Allah therefore revealed this ayah, stating that wealth and worldly gains will not help Abu Lahab.
So Abu Lahab still reasoning things with life, with worldly life. And this is what the problem of the disbelievers in the time of Rasulullah. Many of them, they didn't get it so early. Even those who became Muslim after that, at the beginning they were thinking in a so material way, in so worldly life. They are thinking that Rasulullah is seeking a position. He wants to become a king, or he wants to lead. That's the reason why he is doing what he is doing. Same goes to Abu Lahab. He's still thinking about his wealth, that he will use his wealth. He thinks God is playing and have gain. If you pay, he will let you in, like the human. He still is not getting the picture of the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But in the same time is the arrogance. And that's why they say, the ulama, they say, the test of wealth is more severe than the test of poverty. When someone, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, give him wealth, his test is higher and more difficult than the person who is in poverty. The test in poverty is to be patient. But test in wealth is to be an obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with so much that Allah gives to you. Okay? And that's where many of the disbelievers fall into the kufr, the disbelief. Why? Because they have so much wealth and they feel that they don't need anything else, they are enough. And in the opposite, who was much with Rasulullah from people? Poor people. Poor people and slaves, they are the ones who supported Rasulullah. They were the majority among the Sahaba. The wealthy, most of them, they were with the disbelievers. So that's why when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you today, this is for us to remember, that if Allah give me so much wealth, I have to be more careful and more close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than the poor person. Because the poor person that Allah did not give him much, there is no much reasons for him to disobey Allah. Most of them, they would be patient. They would be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They will do their best. In most of the scenarios. Of course, you will find poor people with disbelief or with a very bad disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when Allah give you and you become wealthy, you have to always remember, Ya Allah, I don't want to be like Abu Lahab. Ya Allah, I want to be like Abu Bakr, or Abdul Rahman ibn Auf, or Uthman ibn Affan. These are the wealthy Sahaba with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And sometimes over one night you become wealthy. You don't know. Suddenly you become billionaire. So you have to be ready. That's why knowledge is power. Why? Because you are learning today. You are still a student. You own nothing. And by the way, no one of you, the children I'm talking, boys and the girls here, no one of you is wealthy even if your parents are wealthy. Don't think the wealth of your parents is your wealth. It's not. That's your parents' wealth. But for you now, you own nothing. Okay? You are still learning and studying. So you have to always remember that when Allah give me wealth in the future, I will be Abu Bakr, I will be Abdul Rahman ibn Auf, I will be Uthman ibn Affan. Okay? And I will not be Abu Lahab. I will not be Abu Jahl. All these are the wealthy disbelievers that goes against Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. سيصلى نارا ذات لهب.
He will be plunged in the flaming fire.
Allah in this ayah confirmed that he is in the hellfire. Continue.
In continuation with the previous one, this ayah too states that Abu Lahab's wealth and worldly stature will not save him.
So his position in Quraysh, he was a very honored person among the Quraysh people. His children and his money, they all will be with him in the hellfire. He will not bring anything except his deeds. وَامْرَأَتُهُ حَمَّالَةَ الْحَطَبِ.
And his wife, the wood carrier. Abu Lahab's wife, Jamil binti Harb, supported her husband in his unfair deeds, and much like her husband, spread lies and treachery. Therefore, Allah states that she too will accompany her husband in hell.
The wife of Abu Lahab, she has the most bad example of spouse. Opposite to Asya. Asya is the wife of who? Fir'aun. Asya did not accompany her husband. Even Fir'aun is the most transgressor in the history. He claimed that he is God and he called people to worship him. And there is people who worship Fir'aun as God. They make sujood to him. But his wife said no, she protected the Prophet. Who is the Prophet that she protected? Prophet Musa alayhi salam. But Jamil, the wife of Abu Lahab, she had the most bad example of spouse. She enjoined her husband. And that's why when you grow up, inshallah, and you have a spouse, you have to always be, even if you love your spouse, you have to always put Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the center of your relationship. What's the center of your relationship? Is Allah. If your spouse goes away from Allah, you always bring him to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And for your age now, is your friends. You have many friends, or your circle friends. Always your friends, the center of your friendship is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If your friends goes away from Allah, you bring them back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or your sibling, or your parents, or anyone that is around you. So you are not following the example of Jamil, the wife of Abu Lahab, but you are following the example of Asya. Asya, the wife of Fir'aun. في جيدها حبل من مسد.
Will have upon her a neck, a halter of palm fiber. Jamil used to throw masad, palm fibers, in the path of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so as to hurt him physically and to ridicule him. Our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not respond to any of her abuses or actions in any manner. As such, for her hatred and unfair treatment towards others, Jamil's punishment in the hereafter will be that she will wear a collar of palm fibers.
Okay, the palm fiber, if you have seen it before, it's a sharp object. If it can poke you if you step on it. Okay, so she used to gather them and throw them in the way of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, especially at his doorstep. When he wants to go out, he immediately finds these palm fibers in front of him. Did Rasulullah ﷺ respond to her? Did he go and fight and throw back to her? If us, we will definitely. If me, I will just fight back. Because we don't have the heart of the messenger of Rasulullah ﷺ. But these are examples in the surah that shows us how do we deal with these people. If someone is mean to you, verbally or physically, and have hurt you so much, how can you deal with him? Would you deal with him like with your emotion, or you would deal with him with like what Rasulullah ﷺ did? You have to deal with him like what Rasulullah ﷺ did. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala confirmed that she will be punished, but by what she had heard Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. What she had heard Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam with the palm fiber, the day of judgment she would be hanged with it. in the hell. So that's why this is another confirmation that whoever hurt Rasulullah ﷺ in dunya, he will be hurt in the akhirah. He will be tortured in the akhirah by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes. Okay, now we open our tafsir inshallah.